moment Jaguar Wright opened her mouth, something shifted in the air. Not the kind of shift you hear, but the kind you feel crawling up your spine. The kind that makes you wonder if everything you believed about hip-hop's most untouchable king was nothing more than a carefully staged illusion. Because when Jaguar Wright, a woman who has already burned bridges with some of the most powerful names in the music industry, suddenly began hinting that Kendrick Lamar's rise wasn't as pure as fans believed, it didn't sound like bitterness. It sounded like revelation. And the scariest part wasn't what she said directly. It was what she implied between the words. For years, Kendrick Lamar had been crowned the chosen one, the lyrical savior, the poetic prophet, the man who stepped into a broken culture and claimed the throne with authenticity so convincing, so believable, that nobody dared question it. He wasn't just an artist. He was positioned as a symbol, the last hope of real hip-hop in an industry drowning in artificial fame and corporate puppetry. Fans didn't just admire Kendrick. They trusted him. They defended him. They believed he was different. But Jaguar Wright? She started seeing something else. At first, she admits, she was like everyone else. She applauded his brilliance. She recognized the genius. She saw the impact. But then, something changed. Something behind the scenes, something quiet. Something that didn't make headlines but shook her perception completely.
I did. I applauded his career. I applauded a lot of things, and then I started finding other things out.
That sentence didn't land softly. It landed like a warning. Because Jaguar didn't explain what those other things were, and that silence was louder than any accusation she could have spoken outright. The music industry doesn't operate on coincidence. Every rise, every award, every spotlight is carefully engineered. Nobody just becomes the most powerful voice in hip-hop without someone, somewhere, pulling strings. And Jaguar Wright had lived inside that machine long enough to recognize the fingerprints of control when she saw them. She wasn't just questioning Kendrick's talent, she was questioning his timing. Because if you look closely, Kendrick Lamar's ascent to absolute dominance didn't happen gradually. It happened explosively, strategically, almost as if the industry itself had been waiting for the exact moment to elevate him above everyone else. His transformation from respected lyricist to untouchable cultural authority happened during one of the most chaotic, divisive, and controversial moments hip-hop had seen in decades.
I was really hoping that hip-hop was going to have a hero to come along to fight for the culture, to save the culture. I guess we're going to keep looking.
And Jaguar Wright noticed something that most people ignored. She noticed that Kendrick's rise wasn't happening in isolation. It was happening in the middle of war. War with Drake, war with narratives, war with public perception. And suddenly, Kendrick wasn't just winning lyrically, he was winning symbolically. Every accusation he made, every narrative he pushed, every moment he stood at the center of controversy seemed to strengthen his position instead of weaken it. In an industry where controversy destroys careers, Kendrick's controversy appeared to elevate him. That wasn't normal, and Jaguar Wright knew it, because she had watched how the industry works. She had watched artists get silenced, erased, and blacklisted for far less. She had watched careers disappear overnight. And yet Kendrick Lamar wasn't disappearing. He was rising higher than ever before. She had expected him to become something else entirely, something revolutionary, something dangerous to the system itself, someone who would expose the corruption from within. But instead, she saw something that deeply unsettled her. That wasn't just disappointment, that was disillusionment.
I think that his success is amazing, and I think it gives a lot of kids hope. And yet, I don't know. It's looking a little different right now. When you think about...
Because Jaguar Wright wasn't saying Kendrick failed musically, she was saying he failed symbolically. She had believed he was the hero, the liberator, the truth teller, but now she was hinting that maybe Kendrick wasn't fighting the system at all. Maybe he was part of it. And once that idea enters your mind, it changes everything. Because suddenly, Kendrick's success doesn't look accidental. It looks coordinated. Suddenly, his Grammy wins don't look like recognition. They look like endorsement. Suddenly, his rise doesn't look organic. It looks looks authorized. And Jaguar Wright wasn't done. She revealed something even more disturbing, something that directly challenged the authenticity of Kendrick's position at the top of hip-hop's hierarchy. She admitted that from the outside, everything looked perfect. His success looked inspiring. His influence looked positive. His image looked untouchable. But underneath that surface, she began to see cracks, subtle inconsistencies, moments that didn't align with the narrative fans had been fed, moments that made her question whether Kendrick's rise had been truly earned or strategically engineered. Because Jaguar Wright wasn't saying Kendrick wasn't talented. She was saying something deeper, something more dangerous.
The question is, were you speaking out against people in the industry abusing others? Because if so, then you should probably speak out against the rest of them too.
She was saying his success didn't look the same once you knew what she knew, and that raises a terrifying question. What exactly did she see? Because in the music industry, success isn't always determined by talent. It's determined by usefulness. Artists who serve the system get elevated. Artists who challenge it get erased. And Jaguar Wright had spent years watching both outcomes unfold. She had watched artists disappear. She had watched artists get silenced. She had watched artists lose everything. But Kendrick Lamar? He was rising faster than ever before. He was being positioned as the ultimate authority, the ultimate voice, the ultimate truth. And Jaguar Wright couldn't ignore the pattern, because she noticed something else, something even more chilling. Kendrick Lamar's moment of absolute dominance didn't happen quietly. It happened during chaos, during controversy, during accusation, during a moment when the entire industry's attention was locked onto one explosive conflict. Because what happened next is where the illusion began to fracture completely, and Jaguar Wright didn't whisper it. She laid it out in a way that made even the most loyal fans stop and wonder whether they had been witnessing a carefully orchestrated coronation disguised as a cultural revolution. The timing wasn't just convenient, it was surgical. Kendrick Lamar didn't slowly climb to the throne. He stepped into it at the exact moment the entire industry was engulfed in accusations, scandal, and psychological warfare, and Jaguar couldn't ignore how perfectly the pieces fell into place around him, as if the chaos itself had cleared the path for his ascension. Because when Kendrick publicly accused Drake, one of the most powerful, untouchable figures in modern music, of the most devastating and career-destroying allegations imaginable, the entire landscape shifted overnight. The public divided into camps. Fans became investigators. Media outlets amplified every lyric, every accusation, every insinuation. And while the entire world was locked onto the conflict, watching every move, waiting to see who would collapse under the weight of controversy, something else was happening behind the scenes. Kendrick wasn't collapsing. He was rising. He wasn't losing support. He was gaining influence. He wasn't being silenced. He was being elevated. And Jaguar Wright noticed how unnatural that pattern was, because in her decades of watching artists move through the industry machine, she had never seen controversy strengthen someone this consistently, this cleanly, and this powerfully, unless there were forces larger than the artist themselves, ensuring that outcome. That wasn't just observation, that was implication. Because Jaguar Wright was pointing directly at the intersection between accusation and elevation, the exact moment Kendrick transitioned from powerful artist to undisputed authority, and the question she was silently forcing everyone to confront was impossible to ignore once you heard it. Did Kendrick Lamar rise because he fought the system, or because the system allowed him to rise? Because the music industry has always operated on invisible contracts, not the kind written on paper, but the kind written in silence, loyalty, and obedience. Artists who align with the system's interests get amplified. Artists who threaten its stability get neutralized. Jaguar Wright had lived through it. She had watched it happen to herself. She had watched doors close without explanation. She had watched opportunities disappear overnight. And yet Kendrick Lamar's doors weren't closing. They were multiplying. His voice wasn't being restricted. It was being broadcast louder than ever. His influence wasn't shrinking. It was expanding globally. And Jaguar Wright couldn't stop asking herself why. Because historically, artists who speak dangerous truths become targets. They get discredited. They get buried. They get erased. But Kendrick wasn't being erased. He was being protected, shielded, elevated. And that raised a terrifying possibility. What if Kendrick wasn't exposing the system? What if he was operating within it? Because Jaguar Wright knew something most fans didn't want to accept. Silence in the music industry isn't accidental. Silence is strategic. Artists don't stay quiet because because they have nothing to say. They stay quiet because they know exactly what would happen if they said too much. And that's when she delivered one of the most chilling questions of all, not as an accusation, but as a challenge that lingered in the air like a loaded weapon waiting to be fired. That wasn't just a question, that was a test. Because Jaguar Wright was exposing the contradiction at the heart of Kendrick Lamar's image, the contradiction between selective exposure and total silence. If Kendrick was truly the fearless truth-teller fans believed he was, why stop at one target? Why not expose everyone? Why not dismantle the entire structure? Unless there were limits, unless there were boundaries, unless there were lines he wasn't allowed to cross. Because the music industry doesn't fear talent, it fears unpredictability. And Kendrick Lamar, despite his powerful lyrics and fearless image, had never been unpredictable in a way that threatened the industry's core foundation. He had never destabilized the system itself. He had challenged individuals. He had challenged narratives, but he had never destroyed the machine. And Jaguar Wright understood that distinction better than anyone, because she had become unpredictable. And she had paid the price. She had been pushed out, isolated, dismissed, discredited. Not because she lacked talent, but because she lacked obedience. She refused to play the role. She refused to maintain the illusion. She refused to protect the system. And now she was watching Kendrick Lamar operate at the highest level of that same system, not rejected, not silenced, but celebrated. Which meant one of two things had to be true. Either Kendrick Lamar had outsmarted the entire industry and seized power independently, or he had been allowed to rise because his presence served a purpose larger than himself. Because the industry doesn't crown kings randomly. It selects them carefully. It positions them strategically. It protects them intentionally. And Jaguar Wright had seen that process before. She had watched artists get molded into symbols. She had watched narratives get constructed around individuals. She had watched careers get engineered from behind the curtain while the public believed they were witnessing organic greatness. And now she was watching Kendrick Lamar stand at the center of it all, untouchable, unchallenged, and unquestioned. But Jaguar Wright wasn't afraid to question him, because she wasn't trying to protect her career anymore. She had nothing left to lose, which made her the most dangerous voice of all. Because the truth, once spoken, cannot be unspoken, and the illusion, once cracked, can never fully be repaired. So now the question lingers, louder than ever, echoing through the industry corridors, whispered among fans, buried beneath headlines but impossible to silence completely. Was Kendrick Lamar truly the savior of hip-hop? Or was he the chosen face of a system far more powerful than anyone ever imagined? Because Jaguar Wright didn't just expose a possibility, she exposed a doubt. And doubt is where every empire begins to fall.